home. Then cheer, my brother, cheer. Our trials will soon be o'er. Our loved ones we shall meet upon that golden shore. We're pilgrims and we're strangers here. We're seeking a city to come. The lifeboat soon is coming to gather the jewels home.
Sometimes the devil tempts me and says it's all in vain to try to live a Christian life and walk in Jesus' name. But then I hear the Master say, I'll lend you a helping hand, and if you'll only trust me, I'll guide you to that land.
The lifeboat soon is coming, by eye of faith I see, as she sweeps through the waters to rescue you and me, and land us safely in the port with friends we love so dear. Get ready, cries the captain. Oh, look, she's almost here. Then cheer, my brother, cheer. Our trials will soon be o'er. Our loved ones we shall meet upon that golden shore. We're pilgrims and we're strangers here. We're seeking a city to come. The lifeboat soon is coming to gather the jewels home.
Oh, now's the time to get on board while she is passing by. But if you stand and wait too long, you shall forever die. The fare is paid for one and all. The captain bids you come and get on board the lifeboat. She'll carry you safely home.
Then cheer, my brother, cheer. Our trials will soon be o'er. Our loved ones we shall meet upon that golden shore. We're pilgrims and we're strangers here. We're seeking a city to come. The lifeboat soon is coming to gather the jewels home. The lifeboat soon is coming to gather the jewels home. We're floating down
You had me out. Scared you to have a word.
Hey, y'all know this morning.
Good morning.
Turn to Lamentations chapter 3, verses 22 and 23. My devotion is basically on the Lord's faithfulness, gratefulness, or graciousness. It is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed, but because of His compassion fail not, they are few every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. Basically, what this is talking about is how many times God has been faithful to us when we have been faithless to Him. I mean, how many times have we actually lost our faith and He's been faithful? He's been faithful to us when we fall. He's been faithful to us when we backslide. When we backslide out of the church, how many times has He been faithful to us when we basically fell on Him?
That's right.
Like one song that I used to love to hear the inspirations do all the time is called "Though I Failed the Lord, He has never failed me."
Right.
And I tell you, that song is true. The message of that song goes right along with this message right here, or this devotion right here. Though I failed the Lord, He has never failed me. I mean, many times I failed the Lord.
Yes.
Especially in my job.
Yeah.
At home, I failed the Lord, but He has never failed me. He's been there many times to pick me back up. He's been there many times to teach me or show me how to turn myself around and get back to being faithful to Him, get back to His Word. But mainly, the main thought I want everybody to think about is, though we failed the Lord, He's never been not faithful to us. He's always been faithful to us.
Yes.
To keep us and guide us, especially what's going on in this world. Today, He's always been faithful.
Thank you, God. God, our young folks will be dismissed. Matt.
I bet you.
All right, guys. Well, since I got Matt's heart beating faster this morning. We're glad to have the Brown family with us today.
Amen.
Forward to hearing them for a while. And sure we'll have something good for us. And, of course, they're getting ready to go back to the country there, and probably mixed emotions, enjoyed a lot of things here, but in some way, I'm sure glad to go back home. So we certainly understand that. All right, well, let me do a couple of things right quick here. Matt, what we're doing is we're studying chapter 12, and we're really looking at an in-depth view of the chapter. And I actually have a study sheet suggestion here that I can give you. Y'all want? Y'all want two or one? One. Okay. All right, first thing we're going to do, what we do, Matt, and the rest of the class, turn to chapter 12 in your Bible, Matthew chapter 12. Brother Matt, I'm really doing, really for the first time, an in-depth study of Matthew, and I'm going through outlining each chapter, and I stay true to the outline. If you look at my outline of the chapter, you're going to find exactly what's in the chapter. And then I try to come up with a unifying theme. You know how we do in sermons, you want a theme with the point. Well, when you got the points, got to come up with the theme. It's a little bit different. But the theme of this chapter was His preeminence, and the Lord keeps mentioning the fact, I'm greater than. Greater than. And so He shows He's greater than because He can cure disease. He's greater than disease. He's greater than demonic spirits because He can cast them out. He says, I'm greater than Jonas. He said, you should have repented because a greater than Jonas. The preeminent one is here. Then He says, a greater than Solomon is here. He even says, I'm Lord of the Sabbath. And they said something about what he did in the temple. He says, I'm greater than the temple. You know, and he is. You can't get greater than him. The Lord of the Sabbath, if he wants to heal somebody on the Sabbath, I think he doesn't need your permission to do so. That's what he's basically saying. So we looked at that last week, but now we're shifting this week in what we did. And I gave you all the questions, I believe, and you should have questions from this part one of the people of this chapter. You should have that I gave you last week. You have that, Sheila?
What else have we done? We got the sheep.
We got the sheep.
Yeah.
People of the chapter. Now, if you want to go ahead and look at the chapter.
The people of the chapter, you talking about the one we went over the first one?
Let's see what you got, Sheila. And I can get off schedule too.
Part one, you said you were gonna give the answers to.
Yeah, part one of section 2. Is that what you got?
Yeah.
I got
Okay.
section 2. Yeah, part one.
Part one. What we did, we went over the part, but we did not answer the question. We always, Brother Matt, go back over and answer the questions that we have. So that's what we're gonna be looking at, but let me go ahead and pull this up on the screen there,
Make sure it's turned on, Brother Donnie.
okay?
Make sure it's turned on, off.
It is on, Brother Matt? Let's see here. I tell you how, but it is not working back because it is not, well, it's I'm sorry.
I did that.
I'll try. Okay, let me try again. All
Alright, go ahead.
right, I'm good. What we looked at, and I'm going to briefly review it, and then we're going to answer some questions, was when I do an in-depth review, Brother Matt, what I do, I go through it and I outline the chapter. But for me, and I think all of us, and I go by the old time saying, it's been around a long time, you couldn't see the forest for the trees. If you just start looking at the details, you don't know what the overall theme is. You can't get it all together. So the first thing I did is went through and got a general view of the chapter and outlined the chapter. And then I went back through it and I said, well, I really want to see what's in this chapter. So in the first, actually the 4th section, which we looked at the first last week, is the people of the chapter. If you got a story of any kind, true or not true, if you got a news broadcast, could you imagine a news broadcast that never mentioned people, just events? That wouldn't work, would it? You want to know what President Trump did. That's what our newscast did. Fussing about what President Trump did, most of our news broadcasts. I hope we're more popular than him, but they come from a brother is saying, they always put a slant on to it too. They don't say he did so and so, they put a negative thing. Well, he's done, whatever he's done, I think they'll report it factually, but anyway. But people are important, so we look at the people, but the chapter kind of can divide itself. I wanted the first brother chapter to see who were the men of the chapter. And I would call them, now you understand this is true events, but they are what I call in the chapter main people or main characters. If you got a story, you got a main character. And so we looked at the people, and Brother Matt, then we looked at the women of the chapter. The Bible said God created them male and what?
Female.
And I read the book, and it's talking about how that the feminist movement has attacked the role of female. If you stay home and keep children, we're so sorry for you. You dress like a woman, not a man. Come on, what's wrong with you? I mean, you're very much criticized, and it started off with the unisex movement. And that was back in my day in the 60s when they decided they wanted to do away with the differences in male and female. They cut their hair alike, they dressed alike, and they advanced on to now we got transgender movement. And it all started back in that day. So we look at the women of the chapter, and of course they are extremely important. And then we look, although they a lot of times do not play some of the main parts so far, we can give you an example. Would you say in the Bible one of the main characters we fit to celebrate is Mary? I mean, she to me more important than kings, right? She had a really, now we don't worship her, of course, but she's the mother of the Savior. I mean, that's a pretty big role. Then we look at the women's chapter, and then we looked at the last part was people groups. A lot of times it will mention groups of people. It won't give us a specific person, but it'll say the congregation. Or it might say the man who gave devotion. Well, that's a particular man, right, this morning. So so that would be a man, but if it just mentions a group, the congregation, then we broke that out. So we're going to look at that in the answer. So I'm going to move through it very quickly. That gave us the men. There's the women. And then there are the people group. We're going to go through these. In fact, the very first thing you see on your questions, it says, what is the first thing we will take an interview of people within the family church? What's the first thing we looked at last week with the whole wall? The people of the chapter, which we just mentioned. Then, what man, number two, now we start with the men. What man displayed his preeminence? Jesus. Jesus displayed his preeminence. And this is an interest for, this interest for me, went back to the Old Testament. By the way, how do you like those tie-ins between the Old and the New Testament? Yeah. Jesus goes back to the Old Testament and he said, well, now wait a minute, y'all are mad because we're eating the corn in the field. Did you read, by the way, referring to the Bible, that's pretty good. Did you read how David and his men ate the showbread in the temple? Yep. So it's what King mentioned by David who ate showbread found in the temple. And they loved King David. They didn't want to criticize King David. He's a very popular king. But he ate the showbread. And yet they criticized Jesus for them eating ears of corn. And yet David went in and ate the showbread. But I said, no. It's kind of like Matt coming in and eating up all the bread we serve on communion. But it was worse really than that, What do you mean? The kids ate communion cracker wafers. That wouldn't be, if your kids eat communion wafers, they'd be in trouble. Yeah. Okay, so we have the King David mentioned. Then as you move through the chapter, you encounter another man. He was in the synagogue, and he found this man, and he healed him on the Sabbath. Who was that man he healed on the Sabbath? What was wrong with him?
The withered hand?
Yeah, a crippled man with a withered hand. Jesus walks in, and has this man with his hand all crippled. And, of course, boy, they didn't like it. And they asked Jesus, is it lawful, they say, the Pharisees. That's just a little Pharisees. I tell you what, Miss Pamela, they can tell you what's wrong with your life in a heartbeat. You don't do like I do. Okay. So the Pharisees always quick to try to correct others. And we got some today. I let the preacher do the correcting, so I stay out of trouble. Now, if I see something that might harm you, but the preacher needs to correct something in the church, it ain't going to. He can do it delicately. He's not going to run everybody off like we would, So, but anyway, they say, is it lawful? And Jesus said, let me ask you a question. If your sheep fell in a ditch, and we use the term ox fell in a ditch, would you get him out on the Sabbath? Well, the answer is yeah. And Jesus said, well, how much more? There is a man. So he heals this crippled man. It's very interesting. What was the man that Jesus healed that was deaf and blind? What was?
Demonic.
He was demonic. He was a demonic man had a demonic spirit. Then he mentions two prophets. What's the first prophet Jesus mentioned in the chapter? And there's a pretty long piece, and it's a prophecy of him. Jesus does not come protesting and waving signs and down with the Pharisees. He comes gentle as a lamb. And even when he will correct people, but he's a gentle kind. He didn't come to hurt us. He will correct us, and he will speak truthfully, but he came to help us. He didn't come, well, I'm coming now, we're going to do this or that. Jesus, if only our politicians would some way act like Jesus. They are Pharisees and Sadducees. If Democrats are a political party that does be spoken about respectfully, you can disagree with their policies up and down the line, but you ought to be nice to people, right? And Republicans ought to be nice, and they ought to be able to get together and say, look, we got a different opinion, let's work this problem out. But they're too interested. But if they come up with a solution, it'll hurt our party. We can't get our candidate in. That's kind of what we're in. But Jesus wasn't like that. And I really, so he mentions, by the way, it says E-S-A-I-S, Isaiah, but / Isaiah. Prophecy by Isaiah. Then he mentions another prophet. They said, give us a sign. And he says, no sign will be given you except the sign of the
Jonas.
Jonas the prophet. Okay? So,
So the first one was Isaiah.
Isaiah or Isaiah. So he actually referred back, and I think that's very significant. He said, well, let's look back at what the Bible said about this. And Brother Matt, something I love in our educated society here in America, oh, they ain't no whale to swallow a man. Well, if Jesus said, as Jonas was the belly of the whale, that's pretty good authority. Somebody said, well, the whale's mouth ain't that big. God can make a whale just to swallow it. I mean, come on. God looked down and the whale didn't have a big enough belly. Hey, he created that whale from the beginning. Maybe the rest of them didn't, but that one did. So Jesus verified. He also verified Jonah was a real prophet. Now, what other king did Jesus mention? Now, he mentioned King David, but what other king did he mention that the queen of the south went to see? Who? Solomon. Of course, remember that story back in the Bible. She came and she says, wow, but this guy is so smart, so rich. The half has not yet been told. She was just impressed with this young man, and you asked for wisdom, and God gave him wisdom and everything that goes with it. By the way, you give a man millions of dollars, but if he don't have wisdom, a fool in his money is soon what? Departed. So wisdom, a good answer. Now we switch over on question 9 to the women of the chapter. And what woman went to see King Solomon? What did Jesus call her? The woman that went to see King Solomon. She was going to condemn the generation because she went to see him and greater than Solomon. Who went to see Solomon?
Was it the Queen of Sheba?
Yeah, Queen of Sheba or Queen of the South, Jesus called her. That's the same. So the first woman mentioned in here, it refers back to a woman, and that woman was the Queen of the South. The first one, toward the end of the chapter, we find another woman who comes to see Jesus right toward the end of the chapter. And actually, people say she's outside, she wants to see him. Who is that woman that wants to see Jesus?
Mother.
His mother. So his mother is mentioned in this chapter. Now we switch over to people groups, and there's a lot. He's going through the coin, and what group of people is with him in that also eats corn in the cornfield?
His apostles.
Yeah, his disciples. Yeah, his disciples. So we see that group of men, and they're just with Jesus, and they're eating the corn. They're not. By the way, let me ask you a question because this kind of goes. Was it Simon? Was it John? It don't say. Was there 12 of them? Was there 3 of them? It doesn't say. But it just mentions disciples, and so the disciples are mentioned. What group of people criticized Jesus and his disciples for plucking corn?
The Pharisees.
Pharisees. Let me give you a good example, and y'all probably don't have this, well, you probably people, but in our independent Baptist churches, I'd walk up and I'd say, if I'm a Pharisee, you in Bishopville? I don't know if you all have it here or not. And you said, well, Jesus had one to put that. I said, oh. Right. But a Pharisee will correct. Have you been places where they correct y'all at times? And I'm not going to preach you. I'm talking about individual members. So they were going to correct Jesus, and so the Pharisees criticized him. It's not lawful. And then another group of people that follow Jesus, and you find this a lot. Did one person follow Jesus? Did 2 people? How many people did it say follow Jesus? It actually gave us a kind of idea of how many.
It said multitude.
Yeah, great multitude. So here we see Jesus going about, but we see this great number of people following him. I can understand it. Look what he can do. And by the way, later it says, and he healed their sick. So Jesus loved people, and people at that point loved him and followed him. What group of men served in the temple who were allowed to eat the showbread? Who could eat the showbread in the temple? There was one group permitted to do that. Who was it?
The priest.
The priest. Mm-hmm. Priest. So the priest could eat. Now, what 2 groups of people? You know, Jesus said, "Let's just show us a sign." And it actually mentions two groups now, but he said adulterous, wicked generation, seek a sign. But who are the two groups that asked for a sign?
Pharisees and Sadducees.
Pharisees, well, not with the Sadducees, but there's another group we heard oftentimes. What are they? They're not the Pharisees, so there's another group that were people who wrote down scriptures. What was that? Scribes. So the scribes and the Pharisees both criticized the Lord, and he said they should have repented. Scribes and the Pharisees asked for a sign, and Jesus calls them a what? I mean, they thought they were super spiritual, and Jesus said they are adulterous, weakest and adulterous generation. No sign going to be given them except the sign of the prophet Jonas. What group of people did Jesus say repented at the preaching of Jonah? Who repented at his preaching in the book of Jonah?
Nineveh.
Nineveh. The whole place. Of course, if we had more preachers swallowed by whales and escaped with their life, we'd have some dynamic preaching movement. First of all, he was a Jew, but I believe he was bleached color. They said, what happened to you? I've been in the belly of the whale. Y'all need to get right. I'm telling you right now. Anyhow, the whole place repented at the preaching of Nineveh. And Jonah being I think he was a Baptist. I'm not even sure he was an independent Baptist, because when they repented, what did he do? He pouted. That's why I didn't want to preach to him, because it was so funny. He was a very mature preacher. I know Matt never acts like that. I'm going to say this. It's probably just I love our church brother, don't you? And ladies, I'm going to say this. But I have to admit, men have their faults. Is that an accurate statement? You let a woman get sick, and she's lay there, and she may be sick. She says, "Look, you let a man get sick. Come on, oh, help me, oh, As my granddaughter called me one time, I was preaching, and I got teared up, and my granddaughter sat down there, and I was in the church preaching, and she looks up at me, she said, "Papa's a whiny baby." So you gotta appreciate us men, whiny babies and all. Okay, I thought to myself, boy, she ought to see me when I'm sick. But anyway, what group of men came with Jesus' mother to see him? Now, not only did Jesus' mother come, but who came with Jesus' mother?
His brother.
His brother. So this is his earthly family. They're really his half-brothers. They're Mary's sons, which would be his half-brothers. All right, any questions about that? We're fitting to go into the second part now. We've done the people. Well, I'm going to say, how can you really understand a chapter of the Bible without understanding who the people in that chapter are? Jesus really taught us a lot, even mentioning people, didn't he? The Queen of Sheba and King David and Brian Jones. And I'm going to make this statement again. Brother Chad, I believe this is one of, after studying it, I spent quite a bit of time with it, I think it's one of the greatest chapters found in the Bible. And it just has so many great truths that we benefit by. Now let's go, Brother Matt, what we did then, we look at three of them. Of course, I like to look at what I call practical truth. I should call it down south truths, and the president makes this statement. And Michael and I was talking about this the other day with the doctors and the nurses. Common sense, Michael, right? Common sense. The medical profession has lost in politicians common sense. So, and that's what practical truth is common sense. So we look at that. Then we look at prominent truth, which is doctrine, and that's the reason I emphasize that, Matt. If I said, Matt, you really think Jesus is born of a virgin? Well, let me show you out in the Bible. Don't say, well, my preacher says it's so, my denomination says it's so. No. We want to look at every doctrine found in the book of Matthew. Yeah. Every doctrine. So we can be doctrinally sound in this. And it goes even in our doctrine, we may say Jesus, Son of God, but it talks about all the things he did as the Son of Man on earth too. And so we find out a lot about it. All right, so we're going into, and then we looked at the prophetic truths. One of the great studies I would like to do, Brother Chuck, that I haven't done as such. What if you started in Matthew 1 and went all the way through the book of Revelation and all you were studying was Bible prophecy. Wouldn't that be an amazing study? Just by itself. So we always look at the prophecies found. All right, so Brother Matt, y'all got your papers, but we can wait and fill. You can fill them out as you go if you want to. No, you ain't got your paper. John,
No, we haven't got our paper.
would you have Jackson hand these out? I mean, you can just back, you'll hand them out, all right? Okay. But while they're giving them out, we can go ahead and get started on it. The first thing that was kind of amazing in this chapter, in fact, it starts right off, it has a practical truth. They said, you're picking corn on the Sabbath. The Pharisees was criticizing Jesus. So the Sabbath, what was the Sabbath? We go all the way back, of course, to Genesis and what the Lord set aside. But then in the Ten Commandments, what does it say? Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And Jesus is not criticizing what the Sabbath is set up for, but he just says there are times. I was on my way to church, but I was running late. Pam and Chuck had a flat tire, but I wasn't going to miss church to help them. Whoa, something wrong with that. And Chuck. And yet, of course, that's kind of like the priest and the Levite that went by this man hurt. I mean, they were the religious crowd. If you thought any, I'm laying there and I look up there and I see a pastor coming by. Oh, thank God, somebody's come by to help me. You know, what? Doing something like that. There you go. Then I see one of the church members come by, and they go by. That's the equivalent, you know. So the Sabbath, you say, my beating's calling you, or you got to keep it correct. I want to say this right, but I'm probably going to say it backwards. And I really am. I get mixed up. Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. Or a man was made for the Sabbath. And, well, I think Sabbath was made for man. That's what it is. Sabbath was made for man. So the Lord, by the way, think about how, now we as Christians celebrate Sunday as Sabbath. And what they did, the Jews, they worked all the time, but that day they had time off to spend with their family and worship. See? That was the day. And does that benefit a person to have a day that you get everything else out of your mind and you just worship?
Yeah.
You know? So it's really for our benefit. Well, the Sabbath was a day of religious observance, and according to the scriptures, abstinence from work. Now, when I came up, you know, on Sunday, because you get involved with stuff and you end up late out of church. I could play ball with my family, but I couldn't go to a ball game. Why? Where am I going to be when church is going on? Or if I'm playing golf. If I took off early one Sunday morning, but going to come to church and play golf, and I was scoring the best score, yeah, I'm going to leave that golf course go to church. It distracts us. Now, if you really want to prove the point, now what do they have going on Sunday? I guarantee you, Little League's playing ball somewhere. All kind of sports is going on, pulling people out of church. So back in our day, we just put that day aside, and we abstained from work, and we're not a Jew, so we don't. They used to call that what they would call it, and it's probably not a good term, but they called it the Christian Sabbath. And it was celebrated much like, but I made this statement when I was preaching, if God gave the Jewish people the Sabbath day, doesn't it make sense the Lord would give the Christian day an equivalent, a Christian people equivalent day? Or the Jews, you know what I'm saying? Is that a commandment? We don't have to follow only Jews? Well, I think we have an equivalent. So you say, that man sure is old-timey. Yes, he is. My claim to fame is I was brought up in those days when America really was a great nation. What are we saying now?
Yeah.
Make America what?
Great.
Great again.
Yes.
But in our day, Brother Chuck, it was great.
Yes.
It was really a great nation. And we've gotten away from a lot of things. Everybody just about went to church back in the South, in my opinion. The second thing is the Pharisees. Now, there are two things when you read about the Pharisees. They were a religious group. We might compare this with denomination, okay? By the way, Sandra brought this up today, or we saw it in the paper. One of the United Methodist churches that was a big church in Macon, when we came here, shut his door. And remember, they came to church and the door was locked. Somewhere about transparency fell that. But then Mabel White was the biggest church in Macon. Closed its doors.
Yes, that's right.
You think I got something to worry about? Yes, you have, because of the distractions, people do not support the local church, and they're closing their doors. Of course, I know, but Pharisees is kind of like a denomination. Not really. They were two groups. What Pharisees? You mentioned Sadducees. They both followed the teachings of the Ten Commandments and the Lord, but one group didn't believe in the spiritual side and didn't believe in resurrection, and the other side did. So we have, those are the verses, by the way. Look how many times the Sabbath is found. Verse 1, 5, 8, 10, and 12. Is that a major topic in this chapter? Absolutely. What about Pharisees? 2, 18, 14, 24, 38. Absolutely. Well, who are they? They're a religious sect with Judaism. They were distinguished by their strict observance of written and traditional laws. They kept the law. When I pastored over at Central, in Warner Robinson, I had one of my teachers, and if you did wrong, he would tell you. And he decided, bro, his teaching, and he's talking about modesty among women. Well, the Bible does teach that, okay. Bible doesn't teach nudity, and if you got it flown, that came about in my day, but that was not what women did back in my day before that time. So it does have a place. We understand that. But he was saying that if you ladies wear a blue jean skirt and you've got pockets on your back, it's immodest.
What?
I ain't taught that. So ladies, don't worry about it. If you'll just wear the blue jean skirt and it be fairly long, praise the Lord. But that's what a Pharisee does. He not only takes what would be Bible, he adds to it tradition, law plus tradition. So they distinguished by the strict observance of written and traditional law. Once they set it up, they taught it whether it's true or not, Brother Chuck. Now let me get in a little bit of trouble. In some ways, it was almost, and I love Catholic people, so it's not. But in the Catholic Church, the Pope sets a lot, but they've got a lot of Catholic tradition. Where in the Bible? Now here's a scholar. I think Matt's smart. You know why I think you're so smart? You know the real thing gave it away.
Marry me.
Yeah. Hey, maybe you're smarter than him. All right, he married her. So we're going to ask you a question, Brother Matt. Well, I've got my question. She blows me away with the answer. Women are smarter than men. Okay, but let's go to the next question. All right. Oh, we're talking about the Catholic Church. Here's the question. Matt, could you show me in the Bible where we're supposed to worship Mary and pray to her?
It's not in the Bible.
But the Catholic Church teaches it as their tradition. So it does similarity there. Yeah. It's not scriptural. And they don't even want you reading the scripture too much. Because if you did, you find out what they teach ain't in the Bible. Like the Lord brought that back, wouldn't he, kind? All right. So we looked at the first of the practical truths. Now look, the house of God. Now, what do we call this? We either call the church. Church should be referred to in a society of house of God or house of worship. But they were referred to back there. Back in that day, they didn't have churches. Jesus made a reference to that before. It's a sacred place of worship. For us, it would be a church. For them, it was the temple and the synagogue. Those were houses of worship. You know, this is a house of worship. Those were houses of worship. And it's amazing to me, the synagogue was a lot like the church in our day. They were public meeting houses where, we read about them in the New Testament, not the Old Testament, and they would go around and preach and teach, and they would come in on the Sabbath. They'd come in to worship. And so it was a lot like, didn't have the same doctrine and teaching, you understand, but it was a place of worship. Now the showbread, S-H-E-W-B-R-E-A-D, put that in your computer, and it'll tell you you misspelled it. But you really didn't. It's an old way of saying it. But it is also, it will probably bring up showbread, S-H-O-W-B-R-E-A-D. So, but they brought this bread, and they went into the temple, and they put, I think this was it was in the holy place, not the Holy of Holies. They had this table, and they'd line up this bread in there, and that was consecrated to the Lord, and it taught them some things about worship. So they had the showbread. Now, what did David do with this bread? He ate this bread. But it's consecrated bread for worship. All right, another temple priest mentioned in verse 4 and 5. Jesus was talking about it. Number one, to be a priest, you had to do what? Had to be a descendant of Aaron. Okay, to be a priest. The Aaron priesthood. Remember, you heard it called that. Then the second thing was they served in the tabernacle and then in the temple. The people who served. Now, I had a fellow tell me yesterday, I was at the hospital, by the way, pray for me. Brother Ronnie Patasman, he passed away yesterday. Well, just sweetly went home to be with the Lord. Okay. Had this fellow tell me, I thought I saw you in the elevator. He looked just like you. But he had on a collar, a priest outfit. So I didn't think it was you. But priest is a proper name for for that was in the Old Testament. And I said, no, I don't think it's me either. Then the temple mentioned in, now somebody tell me, Matt, we're testing you to see if we want to increase you. I threatened him. I said, well, Matt, we listen to your sermon. If you don't do good, we don't know what the 10 years for. Well, maybe we could increase it. Hey, if you impress us. How many temples were there? Anybody, not just Matt. How many temples do we have? Temples. Now, after the tabernacle, what was the first temple? Yeah, Solomon built the first temple. A magnificent building. That temple was destroyed. So you get to the second temple. Remember, they went back and they rebuilt the temple, but it was not as magnificent. And it was known as Temple of Zerubbabel. So that was the rebuilt temple. It was destroyed. But then you come to the place of Herod's temple. In the Bible, it talks about, Jesus said in 3 days, you destroy this temple and I'll raise it back up again. And they said it took 46 years to build this temple. And you're going to raise it back up in 3 days. By the way, 70 AD, it was destroyed too. Now the temple site sits empty. There has not been, quote unquote, and they're used in the Arabs of, Palestinians, they argue over who should have that. Because Jerusalem, whether you are a Jew or whether or not, Jews and Arab both, that's their holy place. They both say that's their holy place. So that was the temples, and that's kind of significant and interesting to me also. And then you have mercy, whichever one of us needs, right?
Yes, amen.
It's the undeserved kindness that withholds punishment, not getting what you deserve. Now, I got to preach a little while. I'll tell you right now. You said a while ago, if your children misbehave while in school, you whoop them children. You need to show mercy. I enjoyed it. That probably sinful. I enjoyed that way too. Well, it also says, Brother Melton, withhold the rod, Yes, you got it right. If they need it.
His face dirty.
But, let me ask you this. What has the Lord given all of us?
Mercy.
Again and again and again.
Mercy, yes.
And the Lord's very merciful. He withholds from us even after we get saved. And sometimes our consequences now may, have natural consequences, but the Lord is very merciful. Miss Jean, you and I, you're a little older than me, but has the Lord been merciful to you all these years?
Time and time.
What about Brother Dawson? He's such a good man, but he needed mercy too, didn't he?
Yeah.
So the Lord is merciful. So and it says he's not accounted to. It says over in Psalm 109 or 103, 9 and 10 or something. It talks about that how he doesn't reward us according to our iniquities, and it says that's mercy. All right. Very quickly here. Sacrifice is offered to God to the killing of animal worship. They had animal sacrifices. By the way, what did John the Baptist say of Jesus? Behold the what? Lamb of God. He became a sacrifice for us. And he was sufficient. We needed no more. Do we come together and offer lambs and goats? No. The sacrifice that everyone on point to came. So, substitute death by sin also can be other than animals, even though they had other bread offerings, the wave offerings, and such. And I tell you what, I think we got a second here. Lord of the Sabbath, and I looked that up, it's one having, when Jesus said, I'm Lord of the Sabbath, he says, I've got authority over the Sabbath day. I'm Lord of the Sabbath. I have authority or power. If I say it's okay, it's okay. All right. We'll probably stop right away. Well, I'll get through this one. Synagogue was a place where Jews worshiped, were instructed in things of God, especially the New Testament. You read about it again and again. Gentiles. Are we Gentiles? Okay. We're not Jewish people. We're not descendants of God's servant Israel. Remember the 12 tribes of Israel? Those are the Jewish people. We got one more. A bruised reed and a smoking flax. And this is interesting. He said he talks about how you're not damaged these things. And he's talking about, in Isaiah, it breaks it up. And the bruised reeds and smoking flax, metaphors that symbolizes individuals who are spiritually, physically, or morally weak. Jesus said, I didn't come to hurt these people. They're wrong. Some are just physically sick. Some are mentally sick. Some are morally sick. Well, I'll give you a good example when I close with this. What did Jesus is teaching in this synagogue? And the Pharisees, don't you love the Pharisees? I think the Baptists, but anyway, Pharisees, they come dragging this woman. Now, I don't know how they dragged her in, but they said they caught her in the act of adultery. I think she probably wasn't dressed properly, okay? Because they wanted to embarrass her, you know. And they said, Lord, Moses and the prophet said this woman should be stoned. What do you say? And did Jesus, this bruised reed or smoking flax, say, let me throw the first stone? I don't have no sin. He said, he's in love with that somebody who cast the first stone. What did he show?
Mercy.
Mercy. Isn't that good? Oh, what wonderful truths even found in the terminology that Jesus used. Let's us pray. Father, we thank you for this time together. We just pray, Father, you would guide us and direct us, Lord, as the church service. Lord, we love our pastor. He's bringing such great messages. Again today, may you, Brother Brown preaching today, but Lord, the last message I heard Brother Brown was a wonderful message. Lord, it'll be a wonderful message if it's the one you gave.